Hi everyone, welcome to episode 64 of the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. Thank you so much for coming back and listening despite the delay. As I said in the podcast update I provided last week, I had a baby, so things got a little hectic here, and also my caseload went up really high, so I just couldn't really justify doing podcasts and all the extracurricular stuff that I like to do because of the client's expectations, and which I understand, to get things out. But thank you so much for everyone who contacted me and congratulated me on the baby and just followed up to see how I'm doing. Thanks to Julia T, and also the people who contacted me about the raffle, Anna, Molly, Joseph, and the two Daniels. Thank you so much. We had a winner for the Kurzban 15th edition, I think, raffle system I did. It's going out to Molly and Kathy from Catholic Charities over in New York. I hope the Kurzban edition will help your operations over there. Just a heads up, AILA members I think get like 25% off the new edition of Kurzban's coming in. So if you are an AILA member, I suggest signing up for that. 25% plus free shipping isn't too bad. I don't get paid for that, but I think it's worth doing. Because it's been a while since I posted, this episode is going to be focused on the news and events in immigration law and practice. The typical AAO analysis of cases and case law is not going to happen in this one. I'll probably do a secondary one sometime down the road to take care of that, plus a couple of interviews I have lined up. Just to keep in mind, you can always get a hold of this podcast through iTunes and Stitcher and the other versions of podcasts that are posted online. Also, I have a YouTube page, the Immigration Lawyers channel, which has the video feed of this recording. So, because I record this as both audio and video and post the audio, almost all the people listening listen to it through the podcast on audio, but it's also available on video as well. So without further ado, let's get it started. Welcome to the Immigration Lawyers Podcast. I am the host, Attorney John Khosravi, and I practice U.S. immigration law exclusively. For more information about the program, please visit www.immigrationlawyerspodcast.com. Please note that this recording is informational only and does not constitute legal advice. Please consult with a licensed attorney for specific legal guidance that suits your case. Also, this recording is copyrighted and written permission is required for rebroadcasting. For more information about me, please visit www.jqqlaw.com. So for everyone who practices like I do, is watching and listening to this, they know what's happening in the last 2 to 3 months with the immigration practice. Now my practice is focused on USCIS primarily, not EOIR and other areas, so pretty much this podcast is skewed towards there. But you know the situation that's happening under President Trump. After a year, he's able to really get his fingers into the immigration system and really do big damage as to how the system was working previously. I mean, on the top of it, they changed the mission statement for USCIS to take away the focus on helping immigrants, a nation of immigrants, to something that's about protecting from fraud and abuse and stuff like that. They've taken the client aspect out of the immigration process, even though DHS and USCIS handle immigration matters on a fee basis. So there's no taxpayer funding. It's literally people paying for their own services for immigration. But that's been a big change, and you can see that for example, in the RFEs. Normally RFEs not something I like to talk about if I do get them. I rarely used to get them because it's kind of embarrassing. It's probably many times attorney error if there's an RFE. You really should. The goal is to submit that petition application with enough evidence so no RFE comes. But I just have to be honest. In the last 8 weeks, I've been overburdened with RFEs, constant RFEs. More than half my cases, almost 3/4 are RFEs, almost all of them frivolous. And that's why I'm really comfortable talking about it, because I'm sure other practitioners are seeing this as well. For example, the biggest part I see is an affidavit of support, where they question the income when we've already sent tax returns and pay stubs, and they're just asking for the same things over again as if we didn't submit it. Or some petitions require affidavits that we submitted. They send an RFE saying we didn't submit it. All sorts of little peculiar issues that aren't issues. And what's very frustrating is they have to spend time, even the most basic RFE takes an hour to write a response, prep it, review it, get a signature from the client to resubmit, and that's an hour. When you accumulate those, it takes up a lot of time. An hour RFE is good. Sometimes they take 2 to 3 hours to get documents together with the additional documents they're requesting. When you have like an L1 RFE, that's completely vague, and I'm getting that every time now, where they just ask for everything you already provided, and so it puts me in a position of how do I respond to that when they've already I've already provided those documents. So then I kind of go and re-argue the case all over again because, I mean, ideally I just say like, what are you thinking? You shouldn't be sending this stuff, but I got to protect the client's interests and I can't go into a tit for tat and arguing with USCIS. So to a certain extent, I do call them out when it's ridiculous, but you just have to go back into it. It's been 5, 10, 15 hours sometimes responding to an RFE. And that's very stressful because it's not something I would have expected. So when I portion my week, how much time I have on cases, and that's one of the reasons it's hard to create the podcast, because it soaks up my time. All of a sudden, I have all this free time to do these kind of things or work on cases or marketing. I can't because I'm responding to a frivolous RFE. So that's extremely, extremely annoying. Annoying is the word that goes with that, maybe the simplest way to do it. Now, they have issued guidance, especially the State Department, that they're cracking down on affidavit supports. They're focused on public charge. You see that in the U.S., focusing on, if you're bringing a parent over, they're going to look to see if the parent's sick or not, so if they're going to be like a burden on the medical system here. They're going to take that, already know it's to the extreme, and people might have making $100,000 a year, their parent wants to come, they're going to start crack down and say, oh, you have a heart problem, you're going to come here, even though the child makes it or the petitioner sponsor makes enough money. So these are the difficulties, and I've been seeing this in my consular practice as well. I've been getting, frankly, frivolous stuff on the consulates, not just like the Middle Eastern consulates, which I usually expect there to be problems, but even in Europe and like other Commonwealth kind of countries that usually are easy, okay, they have understanding. They're picking apart stuff where I have to follow up, and they get fixed, but it's just, okay, you added a month delay. I had one case where they wanted, you can't go too much into detail, but really a necessary letter from me that was 2 lines. And instead of just emailing me saying they wanted this, they had the client go to the embassy, wait an hour in line, go talk to him, and then tell him, yeah, just have your lawyer write this 1 sentence and email it to us. And I had contact by email before because what happened is the client had done an interview, everything was okay, went home waiting for the visa, then they email him saying he has to come back in. So I had to reply and say, listen, is there anything I can provide you? He said, no, just come back in. So he went back in, they said, we want your lawyer to email us a letter saying this 1 line. And I'm like, well, you could have just told him that instead of the guy taking half a day off work, going there and doing that, and just delaying things for no reason. So, is there bad intent by them doing this? Is there a command coming from up high? Maybe. When you look at USCIS, it was just released news reports that there's an internal group, an agency that they're making to police internally the officers and how they're approving cases and make sure it's the way the administration wants it to happen. So even those officers that have understanding about real life situations, they're going to be held back or have problems unless they also become overly strict, unnecessarily and frivolously so. That's a very scary aspect. This creates a lot of problems, causes fees to increase, and I never like taking legal fees that are unnecessary. I'd rather not get the fees and clients not have to pay for something that's really unnecessary. I understand some basic work and stuff that you have to do, but once they become difficult and they start asking for more and more stuff from somebody that's not needed, and the client has to pay out of pocket for that, for additional hours or additional filing fees, it's just unfair. These are people's lives. They're coming here. That money that could go to lawyers, frankly, it could go in and help the U.S. economy once the people come here, help their family. So that's very disappointing that they're choosing to do that kind of system. And all this does create is backlog. So everything is backlogged. And anecdotally, like I've had naturalization cases that are taking more than a year, and I have ones that are taking 2 months to get adjudicated. So it doesn't really make sense, but you'll see I-130s for marriages in parents' cases used to take 4 or 5 months, now taking 8 or 9 months. I have one that's in the 10th month of marriage case. You have naturalization, I said, taking more than a year. Fiance visas. Fiance visas, this is supposed to be faster, taking 7, 8 months, then go to the embassy and all sorts of messes happen. It's very difficult because when clients come in and you give them an estimate of the time, then when it doesn't match that, they get frustrated. They say, what's taking so long? They think it's your problem. Now, I send them to the USCIS timetables they have for cases, and there they can see that, okay, these things are taking much longer than they thought. The timetables they have are longer. But, previously those timetables, the average wait times they have for different field offices and stuff, they've always been there, but my case always happened much faster than was listed there. So I never went by those. But now those timetables that are longer are actually the real aspect of how long things are taking. And along with that increased time, EB1 backlogs have been created for employment-based cases for China and India. So it's no more current when you have a Chinese and Indian national case. They're backlogged. So right now they're looking at 2012 cases, no longer current. And that's terrible because, you know, there's a lot of Indian Chinese who are doing EB-1A extraordinary ability. These are top people that you want in the country. Now they gotta wait 5 years. Hopefully the things will go faster than what it seems and then what they're posting, but that's terrible. I mean, partially from China might be because the EB-5 got filled up. I know a lot of EB-5 clients are now doing EB-1Cs and EB-1As, whereas before they would just go straight EB-5. So this is just a mess. What's going to happen? How much is this going to slow? I don't know. Now they are trying to clear up the system when it comes to asylum, issuing a memo or a decision to do a first in, first out basis. USCIS issued a chart that showed the skyrocketing, you know, exponential growth in backlogs for asylum cases. So now they're doing first in, first out, last in, first out. So if you file an asylum case right now, you're supposed to be getting a hearing pretty quick. And the way they're skewing it is to force them to make a decision faster, you know, being harsher. And then going to immigration court, the Justice Department, you know, the Sessions, that guy, is forcing judges not to be able to adjudicate as easily these asylum cases, and they're changing the structure of those. And that's a huge conversation that we had. There's big changes that are happening in the asylum process, especially asylum in the court system. So what happens with all these delays if you're dealing with USCIS? What happens when adjusting a status case? What happens to the medical? Well, the medicals are expiring. So if you're doing an employment-based case, not that the interview is required, and that may happen, frankly, most of the time more than a year after filing, the medicals are going to expire. So what do? When you submit the adjustment of status, don't include the medical. Include a letter that says, listen, RFEs or send out a letter. We'll bring the medical at that time or send it to you, or bring it to the interview, because it's just going to expire and cause your client to have to pay another fee to get another medical and such. So as it is right now for employment-based cases, don't send medicals in. Frankly, maybe family-based cases don't send them as well, because those may take longer. Hopefully not. Like in Los Angeles, they don't take a year, but I've had cases like in Nevada that took a year to adjudicate. So those medical certificates and medical checkups and stuff are going to expire. Something to be mindful of. Now the administration's lies continue with regards to the immigration process. There's multiple areas of lies. So one is the travel ban. The travel ban came in to alleviate the pressure of it. They created like a waiver system, so if they got sued, they could say, hey, listen, we have this waiver system that allows people to come in and all that kind of stuff. Well, what about this waiver system? Almost none of them are actually being granted. In the first month that the travel ban came into, out of 8,000 plus cases that could have been waiverable or had a waiver made, only 2 of them were approved, 2 waivers. So I've heard cases where, you know, parents of U.S. citizens got denied, brother and sisters waiting for like 16 years for their time, their place in the interview line, and their prior date to become current. They've been denied. EB-5 cases, investors spending $1 million sometimes going to the interview after a couple years because of how long it takes to adjudicate the I-526, going there, getting it denied. Imagine you invested all that money and time, and the family cases, you know, 10 years plus, and money-wise for EB-5 cases, and go there and get denied. That's such a mess. It creates so much animosity unnecessarily, so much pressure on family lives and future goals and plans on people. It's such a shame that they would do something like that. And the misleading goes even further. Now, like President Trump had a State of the Union speech in January. I was going to plan on breaking that whole thing down. If you follow my list, I have a monthly mail list for attorneys, and I do like in my analysis of a short brief introduction. I talked about the 4 pillars that Trump proposed on his State of the Union speech. Now, these 4 pillars, I'm not going to go into them right now. As always, they're pretty ridiculous, but you know, the wall is part of it, and border security, all that kind of stuff. But one of the things they really pushed was the fact that he wants to get rid of family immigration. So that at first when he was running, the whole idea was, oh, illegal immigration, this and that. No, that's not really the case. They're trying to just stop immigration. So they want to get rid of brother and sister, children of U.S. citizens and green card holders, you know, above 21, and even parents of U.S. citizens from being able to get a green card. So what happened is during that time before and after, I kept hearing on the news, Congress people and these pundits would say, yeah, people are applying for their aunts and uncles and their cousins, which couldn't be farther from the truth. There's no program for aunts and uncles and cousins. Now, you can have a brother and sister case, like, I filed for my brother in some other country. That's going to take like 16, 17 years until they're eligible to get a green card. By the time they get that green card and they want to go and file for, as a green card, we can't file for anyone, maybe like your child or something like that. So they have to get citizenship first, then they file for their, relative or something. That timeline doesn't make sense of what they say in this chain migration of filing for uncles and cousins. This is just lies, and you hear on the news, and the reporters don't know anything to challenge them on that. And it just goes to something I say all the time. The only people that know the immigration system and the immigration process are immigration attorneys. I don't even think USCIS sometimes knows it, because if you're getting these RFEs, that means they don't know what they're doing either. And frankly, a lot of immigration attorneys don't either. So this week I've got 3 consultations, and they came to me, and the clients, one of them went to multiple people, and everything those 3 other attorneys told them were wrong, completely wrong. And the 2 other ones went to other attorneys as well that had one. And there were one that told them that if you're married to a U.S. citizen and you're naturalizing, you can file for naturalization after 18 months. That's crazy. Another one said if you file for a reentry permit, you can't file for citizenship because filing for a reentry permit means you're abandoning your status. Like, it's just like, what? Like, how do you call yourself an attorney? So I think nobody knows the immigration system, frankly. You got to study it a lot to get to know what's going on. But these lies go down when there's an agenda behind it, which is frightening because it goes on the news and people regurgitate this nonsense and it keeps going forward. So what to expect? Practice management. They want to get rid of diversity visa. They want to get rid of family stuff. There's a good chance they get rid of diversity visa. There's a good chance they could get rid of family-based brother and sister cases. What does that mean now? Well, if you have clients that are U.S. citizens, file the I-130 for siblings and the parents right now. Get the process started. Get them a priority date just to have them in. So in the short term, what does that mean? More backlogs because more people are filing cases. But once you go past that for practice management, this is going to be a big effect on immigration attorneys because, I don't really take diversity visa cases. Rarely, if a client needs it for some reason, I'll do it because a lot of times they do it on their own. But once they become green card holders, they're going to get, married, or then they're going to get citizenship and then file for their parents. And all those future potential clients and cases are going to disappear if they get rid of all these programs. So not now, but 5-10 years from now, it's going to be a big hit to the immigration process. So that's something as an advocacy group, as immigration attorneys, this is our business and our work. There's different aspects. There's, we're advocates for the law, we're helping immigrants and all that kind of stuff. We're helping the U.S. by bringing people here, helping the social safety net by more taxpayers, all that kind of stuff. But at the end of the day, we're a business too, and we're a group, and we're colleagues, we're a bar, what is that, a trade group, and we got to be mindful of the fact that this administration is just taking away our livelihood, and it's not like we're doing anything dirty. We're helping people reunite families. We're a so-called Christian nation that's all about family and all that. Well, you're tearing families apart. What you're doing, you're tearing groups apart. When there's a news report that, like, for Iranian Jews and Christians that were escaping, they were in Europe, they're on a plane to come to the U.S. They sent them back to Iran and said, no, we're pushing back refugee. So all the values and stuff that we are claimed to have, especially for the people that vote for certain agendas with the value-based voting, they're really going against that. But that's been the case when you all along when you see how both sides, both Democrats and Republicans, vote for war and bombs in Syria over lies in Iraq and all this kind of stuff. It's one thing to say you like want to protect families and lives here in the U.S., but in reality, that's not really the case. But so when it comes to our practice, you got to be mindful. They're really cracking down, and it's going to have a long-term effect on immigration practices if these things are able to go through. Oh man, so the next thing is just gets worse, and this is why it's really important for everybody, not immigration lawyers and people and immigrants, to get involved. You've probably seen the reports of ICE and CBP just going off the street and picking people up and taking them into vans and taking them away. This is terrifying, I mean, I don't even know where to start on this. This is straight up like Nazi style, Chinese, Soviet Union, police state, Iran kind of things, Saudi Arabia, where they can just pick you and take you and put you in a van and take you out. Now, these people have removal proceedings pending. I mean, they've had removal orders, but this kind of system, when you pick someone off the street and it's supposed to be okay, it's just not okay. This is rendition. This is like it's a very scary thing, because one aspect is, if people are used to, someone with an ICE van rolling up and just picking someone off the street, they're going to think that's normal. kidnappers are just going to paint their vans that color and do the same thing. That's probably already happening. And people just think, oh, ICE got him. It's not like they hand paperwork to say follow up or their badge or something. They come in plain clothes. They act like they're just people who just yank somebody and they take him. This is a very scary thing, and it's a creation of a police state. Now, there's a report that ICE has spent money and bought the biggest license plate reading program there is, software, so you start reading license plate. Why would ICE need that? They're already the biggest federal police agency there is. They're going to do license plate reading. This is very scary kind of police state kind of stuff that every person should be against in this country if you love freedom, if you love the American way of life. And it's very scary. Now, I have to give a hat tip of much respect to ICE's San Francisco spokesman who just resigned. ICE was pushing this narrative, or DOJ was, Sessions and all of them, that in San Francisco and Northern California, the mayor of Oakland told people that, yeah, ICE raids are coming, be prepared. And ICE and DOJ started putting out this info that 800 or something people that were criminals were able to hide because they had this information. The spokesman there just couldn't go along with the lie and had to resign because this is not true. They're just making this number up. So that's the kind of stuff. Once the state, the government gives these false reports and the media just parroting, and the media is just garbage, straight up garbage all around. If you listen to this podcast and watch stuff on YouTube, even if it's conspiracy theory stuff or crazy kind of stuff, it's better quality than ABC, NBC, MSNBC, Fox News. Straight up, all of them are garbage. You can't really listen to anybody. Even New York Times, the LA Times, straight up garbage. I know myself because I've done interviews with people. They just take what I say, even when they're trying to be on my side and stuff. They just butcher it and put the laws the way I describe it out of context, or describe it wrong, or sensationalize it. Straight up garbage. You see these false reports about foreign affairs and in Syria, for example, they finally came out and said, yeah, those gas things that we said Bashar Assad bombed his own people. Yeah, that wasn't true at all. And that just gets swept up. That came out last week. And so we just launched bombs into the country and bombed the hell out of it over false reports over and over again. So you just can't believe any of this stuff. You really got to go do these kind of podcasts and stuff. I think there's more genuine stuff in there because I have a responsibility. I have my name out there. When you have NBC, they have the power of all that money and promotion, all that kind of stuff. That they could hide behind, but I can't. I'm going to ruin my reputation if I'm out here spewing nonsense. So it's unbelievable. It's very sad and very dangerous. I just read this report. This is unrelated to immigration, but something when I talk about this police state stuff, it's really scary. In China, they created this system where everyone has we have when we want to get credit, we have the credit bureaus. That get hacked like crazy. It's such a stupid system. But we have credit scores, 750 whatever. If you want to rent a car, it messes your credit. They have a social credit score. So every citizen in this billion-person country plus, I think it's billion plus, they have a social credit number that says how good a citizen they are, and it's pretty much how much they toe the line and how much they'll rock the boat. And now they're changing it so depending on your score, if it's a low one, you have antisocial behavior, you actually read the news, you have on Twitter, on their local Twitter, whatever the name is over there, you say something that's not pro-state, pro-communist party state, then they're going to decrease your credits. And when they decrease it enough, you won't be allowed to get on a plane to travel. So they're controlling your movement in that way. It's already really bad in China. If you're born in a city, you can't really move to another city without getting permission. It's a ridiculous system, very scary police state kind of system. And there's a billion people that are going along with it. And they just changed the system where the leaders get to be there for life now. There's no changes in that way. And people are going along with it, and we do a lot of trade with them. They're getting more and more wealthy. And I have a lot of Chinese clients. They're really good people. But it's very scary if that system is able to come here and it becomes normalized, and we're doing that more and more, because that's not a right system. It's completely wrong. It goes against the liberties and freedoms that is us as Americans, and that defines us. I don't think being American is about being born in this country or being naturalized. And it's about that yearning for individual freedom to be able to live your life without taking away someone's rights, but being able to live your life freely. And that doesn't exist there. And I'm not against tariffs for sure, but how do we support systems? So we put sanctions on Iran and stuff for human rights in North Korea, but that's a human rights violation to me if someone has a social credit card or social credit system, and if it goes low because they said something against the leader, made fun of them, they can't get on a plane, which means they can't do business, they can't see their family, they're stuck in their city, essentially house arrest. And then there's more to it, not just getting on a plane. So these are very dangerous things, and how do we support that? And China is such a big part of the global system, we can't just cut them off. The more we cut off the Chinese system, the more the people are going to get hurt because that didn't institute the system. So I don't know how to deal with that, but it's like something that's the forefront when you talk about stuff. I mean, forget this Mueller investigation, forget like even Trump. Like, these are the hardcore situations. How are we going to live our lives and raise our kids with values? Are they going to yearn for freedom, or are they just going to parrot what the state tells them, or like whatever mob is in charge tells them? And that's really the most important thing about this. But sorry about that. Moving on. Let's see. Talking about such a hardcore thing like that really changed my mind. Sometimes I want to make a podcast that just talks about these kind of things, but to be honest, it's going to create too much attention on stuff that's not going to get anywhere for my family or make me any money, just create hassle in my life. They did an interesting thing is USCIS now permits not only credit card payments for naturalization cases, but they opened it up to all petitions. So that's something to be mindful of. Before you submit it, make sure you go on the list of petitions that are approved for credit card payments. Embarrassing, I have to say, I did an EB1 case. I saw the I-140 was on it, and I didn't pay attention. I did a credit card for I-140 and I-907 premium processing. Well, premium processing for my I-907 doesn't allow credit card payments, so you're gonna have to send that one by check, or else the case is gonna be returned. I can embarrassingly tell you about that. So just be careful. Make sure double check which petitions and stuff you're gonna be paying credit card through. Now, going back to the administration, they're putting a huge amount of anti-immigration people in charge. The refugee program just got this anti-refugee person in charge. I started subscribing to DHS and USCIS spokespeople and stuff on Twitter, and they're just spewing bad facts and hate and anger and all this stuff. You know, the agency spokespeople, they're giving their opinions on senators and representatives and their bills in a really harsh manner. To me, that shouldn't be allowed. They should fire these people. They can't be giving opinions openly, personal opinions on bills that are coming, and lies are part of it too. I don't know how these people still have a job. They should be getting the hell out of there. The State Department is also toning down their human rights reports that are used for asylum cases, so that it'll be harder to use those reports for asylum. And 60% of top-ranking career diplomats left the State Department. So they gutted the State Department. They got rid of career diplomats that are running the place essentially. They weren't running it too well because I had to deal with the NBC and the embassies for consular processing, but it was better than it is now. They cut the funding, so they made it a bare bones operation. There's so many ambassadors that haven't been chosen yet. These posts aren't exist right now, or they're empty. And that's really bad because, as I said before, you're bringing down diplomacy drastically. You're ratcheting up the militarization. There's only one direction with that. So it's a very scary situation, not just for immigration, but to our lives and our future and our children. I have a kid now. He's a boy. 20 years from now, that's prime time for going to war. So I really don't want him to go fight in the war. There's no need. I don't have problems with anybody. It's enough to go war over it. Not something. I could talk to anybody and fix a situation if I was a diplomat. Really, all these countries. There's no need to go to war in 2020 and 30 and 40. This isn't 2,000 years ago where you're Caesar trying to just take money and land. Actually, it is exactly like that. You're trying to take money and land, and that's the same old, same old. But the people got to push back now. We have the internet now. We can't let the leaders just take us into these kind of things. So what happens with all this? Student visas down like crazy. Less students here, less money for the universities. Our education system takes a hit here. They're talking about restricting Chinese student visas. And that's an interesting thing. I talked about the social credit rule. There is something, at least 1% I could say, that countries like Iran, China, Russia, there's got to be secret cell agents they use a student visa program for marriage cases to come here and infiltrate to a certain extent. Now, how much power could an infiltrated F1 student visa holder come here have? I don't know. Maybe if they're going to like nuclear studies or something, they gotta be more mindful of those. So there is some, because there's word that they're trying to crack down on Chinese students coming here, because they're coming here, to come and see who like the agitators are, the anti-communist party, and that's this and that, and then to push their agenda of pro-communism, socialism, and probably immigration lawyers listening to this, a lot of people here are considered socialists. I'm absolutely not a socialist or communist, and I'm really against that too. So, they're pushing agendas to shape life here, to shape how Chinese people here live out of fear of their home country coming to attack them. And so, there is something to be more suspicious of those, but I think overall having an open policy is going to be better for peace and prosperity than that. So that's something to be mindful of, that student visas are cracked down, and a lot of times just the students don't want to come here anymore. I mean, the way they're treating students and just people who go to the embassy interview is really offensive. They talk to them like they're lowlives. I have so many clients that go there and just offended, like, I'm a human being, why do you treat me like that? I'm not a piece of garbage that you're just like coming, oh, you want to come to the US? And that kind of stuff really ruins our respect in the world. When I was taking history in college, I studied political science, history, especially focused on Middle East and North Africa. In World War I, after the what are they called? The Allied powers, wherever they were, Britain, France, all that, and the U.S. won. They were carving up the Middle East with these fake borders, and Syria was really frustrated and worried about this because they're like, oh, they're gonna come screw us, which they did. And they wrote a letter and they said, we know you're going to do this, you're going to carve us up, but whatever you do, don't give us to the French, which they did, they gave them to the French. Whatever you do, we would plead with you, give us the United States and let them make the decision because we know they're honest. And that was 100 years ago. So now we're bombing the hell out of them and killing their children. So the life changes pretty drastically. Moving on, there's a new Foia system. DOJ said, we've centralized all the Foia stuff in a website called Foia.gov. I haven't used it yet, but hopefully it's a better system for doing Freedom of Information Act requests. Under its current administration, kind of be careful when doing a Foia request. Before I would do it for everybody, but now I'm like, who knows? They might Foia it, see something on there that could be a problem and create issues for the client. So maybe be hesitant, depending. You might not want to do that to bring attention to your case. A practice management note, there's this thing called the GDPR, data protection. European Union is instituting it where they want people not to have easy access to your online files and for security and stuff. So you have to put in procedures to make it safer. So if you have European clients, it's something you have to do. But if you're going to do it for them, might as well institute it everywhere. What I did is I created Dropbox folders for my clients to be able to access it. And I upload files there, their private documents and stuff, and let the email just be for conversations. Any data goes to Dropbox. Now it's really annoying because you got to put in there, take it out. Clients sometimes don't use Dropbox, or they don't know how to do it. It's just a mess. Sometimes just emailing a document is easier, but that's something to think about and to note. I'm not sure I'll put this at the end of my notes, but there's been a lot of talk about O1s and EB1s, in particular EB1A extraordinary abilities, because it's been claimed, or I guess that the president's wife Melania got her green card through EB1 process, and a lot of people are saying, oh, she's not extraordinary ability. Well, she probably is. I mean, I've gotten EB1As for models like that, and she's a perfect candidate for EB1A. And then I read an article about this one guy who got an O1 for making this the best pizza, and that's the cool thing about O1s and EB1s. It's so flexible, and when USCIS has understanding about it, it's really cool. But I'd just be worried if I was that pizza guy. He got his photo in the paper, and he's probably advertising and marketing for his business. But when it comes to immigration stuff, you don't want any attention brought to your case. That's the last thing you want to do. So you guys got to be careful, because now they might go back and revoke it or not renew it. That's it for today. I got to go back to work, so I'll try to bust out, because I have some interviews lined up with some really cool people, and so that's going to be taking some time doing those videos and podcasts and editing and all that kind of stuff. I'm also going to be in Vegas on April 20th speaking at the SoCal / I guess Nevada chapter spring conferences or whatever. It should be a neat thing. It's got Lake Las Vegas. It's a 2-day conference talking about immigration stuff, the typical AILA conferences. I'm going to be talking about the small firm solo operations, how I do it, and just guidance and things to do. I'd love to see you there. If you're coming, just send me an email, info@jqqlaw.com. That's the chapters give me 2 tickets free so I can raffle it out. Unfortunately, I haven't responded. I'm putting on blast right now. You got to start doing this kind of stuff. It's fun and it gets more people involved. So that's it for today. Please email me, info@jqqlaw.com. I feel like I went through this really fast and probably talked really fast. Hopefully it was understandable. I just wanted to get an episode in because it's been a while. I really enjoy it. So many of you reach out to me, and I have connections all over the US now of lawyers that listen to the program and who communicate information to me on a regular basis. I love to meet you all in person. So if I'm ever traveling and stuff, I'm going to be in Atlanta, for example, for an employment-based case probably in a couple months. If people are in Atlanta, I'd love to meet and talk with you while I'm there. and just, you know, Las Vegas, San Jose, San Francisco, Seattle, all the typical places I like to go to. Other than that, you know, there's a lot more to talk about, but I think I'll leave it there and hopefully bring some more material out sooner. Until next time, have a great one. Bye-bye.